The Wells Report begins in 45 seconds. The Wells Report begins in 30 seconds. The Wells Report begins in 15 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. This is Monday, July 1st, year of our Lord 2024. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. And so let's compare. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. It has finally happened. The Supreme Court of the United States has ruled on presidential immunity. This from the New York Times. This was 31 minutes ago. The Supreme Court ruled today that former President Donald Trump is entitled to some level of immunity. This is equivocating language from the New York Times and other news sources insofar as this is not a complete, absolute ruling from the Supreme Court. More about that coming up in just a couple of moments. This, by the way, is a decision that will almost surely delay the trial of the case against him on charges of plotting to subvert the 2020 election past the coming election in November. The vote was 6-3. It divided again along partisan lines. Mr. Trump contended he was entitled to absolute immunity from the charges, relying on a broad understanding of the separation of powers and a 1982 Supreme Court precedent that recognized such immunity in civil cases for actions taken by presidents within the outer perimeter of their official duties. Lower courts rejected Mr. Trump's claim. The Supreme Court's ruling may delay the case enough so that Mr. Trump would be able to make it go away entirely if he prevails in November. Again, there's more about that, and I will be talking about that once we get the news taken care of. This was the way NBC News reported it in a special report. Let's take a look at that as we start our day on the first day of July, year of our Lord 2024.
Is both generational and also very specific. It is generational because it's possible that the Supreme Court will now set a new standard for presidential immunity moving forward for history. A legacy move here for generations to come yet. And specifically for former President Trump, it also obviously deeply matters to that federal election interference case against him. What the justices will decide as we are watching our team of legal experts there and correspondents hunched over their laptops, sifting through this decision here. And let me explain what's at the heart of this case. Whether what the former president did as it related to the election interference scheme that he's alleged of conducting were those acts unofficial or official? If they were unofficial, then his attorney concedes he could potentially be prosecuted for those. If they were official, he would, in theory, be immune to prosecution. That's the case that the former president's team is making. So let me give you an example. When the former president calls a private attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who then spread election fraud lies, his own attorney conceded that that would be a private, unofficial act. On the other hand, Mr. Trump calls the head of the Republican National Committee to talk about that fake elector scheme. His attorney insists that that is official. So that is what our team is parsing here. What specifically has the Supreme Court decided here on each of those matters? Now, the former president himself, in a new interview just released this morning that was taped yesterday, is seeming to downplay the impact of the immunity case against him. But remember why this is so critical. critical. It is all about, and I'm talking politically here, it is all about the timing for him. His team is seeking to delay this as much as possible past the November election, because that is the political reality here, that the former president could, in theory, end up back in the White House come January. In theory, he could potentially pardon himself. That is uncharted territory here, so we don't want to get over our skis on that front. But the timing is what is so critical. The judge in this case has said that she would not, in fact, move forward with the trial until about 3 months after this case gets back to her. We've been waiting on this decision coming down, not just on the very last day of the Supreme Court term, but the very last case on the very last day of the Supreme Court term.
And so that's the way NBC analyzed it earlier today. Fox News was very to also out what they saw as a part of all of this. And we'll have some of those reports coming up a little bit later on as we continue our broadcast. Let's oh wait, maybe you'd like to see me instead of the computer screen. So or maybe not. You know, we have to keep these things we have to keep these things certainly in perspective, don't we? All right, so getting back to the New York Times article, this is something that we thought was going to happen. We were pretty sure that President Trump was at some level going to prevail, and it's not really President Trump. This is about the executive branch of our nation, the separation of powers, and it is a generational decision. Here's what the New York Times says about the ruling. The justices said that Mr. Trump is immune from prosecution for official acts taken during his presidency, but there was a crucial distinction between official and private conduct. The case returns to the lower court, which will decide whether the actions Mr. Trump took were in an official or private capacity, but that will delay all of the proceedings for the foreseeable future. The former president faces 3 charges of conspiracy, 1 count of obstructing an official proceeding, all related to his efforts to cling to the presidency after his 2020 loss. Note the bias in that particular statement. He was indicted last August by special counsel Jack Smith in one of 2 federal crimes against him. The other relates to the FBI raid on his private club, Mar-a-Lago. This in August of 2022 that recovered missing government documents. The prospects for a trial in the 2020 election interference case before the election seems increasingly remote. If Mr. Trump prevails at the polls, he could order the Justice Department to drop the charges. The bottom line effect of the court's ruling appears to be the trial judge in Washington, Tanya S. Chutkan, is going to have to hold an evidentiary hearing on many, if not most, of the allegations in the special counsel's indictment of President Trump. The fact-finding process in the court has ordered could take a while, not only to conduct, but also to prepare for. Lower courts had ruled against President Trump. Judge Chutkan of the Federal District Court in Washington denied Mr. Trump's immunity request in December. Whatever immunities a sitting president may enjoy, the United States is only one chief executive at a time, and that position does not confer a lifelong get-out-of-jail-free pass, she wrote. A unanimous 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia agreed with that in February. As a matter of fact, I do too. Other January 6 cases. The court heard other cases in the term concerning the January 6th attack in the Capitol, both of which will relate to Mr. Trump. One, an attempt to bar Mr. Trump from the ballot in Colorado under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which made people who engage in insurrection ineligible to hold office. That was a Civil War law that was set aside by the Supreme Court unanimously. The other limited the use of a federal obstruction law to prosecute members of the mob who stormed the Capitol. 2 of the 4 charges against Mr. Trump are based on that law. Those will go away. Let's see. Justice, and then what ends up happening here is that the New York Times gets into the weeds regarding what they consider to be other stories. Like, for example, Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito rejected calls for their recusal, as they should. The legislative branch and political pressure is notwithstanding on the Supreme Court of the United States or the justices. This was just smoke because the left of this nation, the political left, had anticipated this ruling will be and probably even hoped that this ruling was going to be decided this way. But they did want to put that out there as some kind of a some kind of a way to throw ambiguity on a decision that's basically obvious. What do you think about this? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. What do you believe about this particular decision by the Supreme Court of the United States? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Do you believe that President Trump got away with it? Got away with another one? Or do you believe that this was a righteous decision? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. In point of fact, I talked about this several times on this broadcast. I talked about the fact that there was going to be, this was a novel approach to how the politics of the day would have something to do with President Donald Trump. And this was an opportunity for, say, for example, the left to try to throw shade on what was going on with the president and the presidency in toto. In other words, no one had ever adjudicated, and this was brought up before, nobody ever adjudicated what the actual limits of presidential immunity are. The Supreme Court, I believe, masterfully identified that. Official acts, immune. Unofficial acts, not immune. Now we have to determine what the brackets are. And I foretold this, I don't know, a couple of years ago at this point, when I said, this is simply a way to define what presidential immunity is. That's not altogether a bad thing. But certainly during official acts, a president must have immunity. It is not what is, I think, in a hyperbolic way described as absolute immunity. There was a dissenting opinion from Sonia Sotomayor that talked a little bit about the list of crimes a president could commit while he was the president of the United States, all of them destroying the country, which is garbage. Because what she decided to set aside in all of that is the difference between criminal prosecution and political prosecution. The Constitution of the United States says that when high crimes or misdemeanors are indeed committed by the President of the United States, there is a removal from office, which it seems to me would indeed provide a strict punishment for those presidents who saw fit to do some of the acts that you talked about. We'll be talking more about that coming up in just a couple of seconds. Fox News has a guy that I have great regard for from a standpoint of federal law and indeed constitutional law. He is the constitutional law professor, one of them, at the George Washington University. His name is Jonathan Turley. This is what Turley had to say today, earlier, when the decision came out.
Indictment's allegations that Trump attempted to pressure the vice president to take particular acts in connection with his role with the certification proceeding, thus involve official conduct. And Trump is at least presumptively immune from prosecution for such conduct. The court then goes on to say that the burden, of course, is on Jack Smith. He has to show that this does not pose any intrusions into the executive branch. The court says that that this, quote, may well hinder the president's ability to perform his constitutional functions. So here the court is imposing a very significant burden on Jack Smith when this goes back to the judge. We talked about how this trial judge has proven to be very favorable towards Jack Smith. She's certainly been motivated to try to get a trial before the election. But the court here is giving much more clear lines than some people expected. They're saying that there is a presumption here that you have to deal with. The burden is high, and the court indicates that it may view this as something that could hinder a president's authority.
Trey, the Biden campaign clearly is indicating that they think this is a loss, at least in the way they wrote that statement that Dana read. I want to just read for 1 second about the dissent from Justice Sotomayor, who writes the dissent with Kagan and Jackson. Today's decision to grant former president.
Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to pick that report up here in just a couple of moments. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back with the rest of that report, which, by the way, was brilliant. You are listening to the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Breaking news this morning. The Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity has been released. The president has immunity while he is the president for official acts. This was a masterful opinion by the Supreme Court. And what it does is it lays the groundwork for courts at the lower level of the Supreme Court to define just exactly what official and unofficial acts are. We had just started a report from Fox News. I'm going to start the thing over again because this is obviously breaking news and more information is better than less. But what I want you to see is I want you to see how Jonathan Turley checks this out. He's a constitutional law professor at George Washington University. The guy is brilliant, and he has actually started analyzing this particular decision. And here's what he had to share earlier today when the decision came down. Check this out.
The indictment's allegations that Trump attempted to pressure the vice president to take particular acts in connection with his role with the certification proceeding thus involve official conduct. And Trump is at least presumptively immune from prosecution for such conduct. The court then goes on to say that the burden, of course, is on Jack Smith. He has to show that this does not pose any intrusions into the executive branch. The court says that that this, quote, may well hinder the president's ability to perform his constitutional functions. So here the court is imposing a very significant burden on Jack Smith when this goes back to the judge. We talked about how this trial judge has proven to be very favorable towards Jack Smith. She's certainly been motivated to try to get a trial before the election. But the court here is giving much more clear lines than some people expected. They're saying that there is a presumption here that you have to deal with. The burden is high, and the court indicates that it may view this as something that could hinder a president's authority.
Trey, the Biden campaign clearly is indicating that they think this is a loss, at least in the way they wrote that statement that Dana read. I want to just read for 1 second about the dissent from Justice Sotomayor, who writes the dissent with Kagan and Jackson. Today's decision to grant former presidents criminal immunity reshapes the institution of the presidency. It makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our Constitution and system of government that no man is above the law. Whatever happens, as you read through this decision, it does expand the power of the executive. It is pretty consequential if we look at it big picture, Trey.
Well, I always think it was consequential. I mean, who else has plenary pardon power? Who else can order the killing of an American citizen overseas? It's always been the president. So presidents have always enjoyed powers that the rest of us do not. I read that dissent as just, they must not have read the majority opinion, because the majority opinion is pretty simple. Unofficial acts have no immunity at all. Official acts, there is immunity. We're going to presume that it was official, and motive is irrelevant. But I'll also say this, Brett, motive is never required to be proven. No prosecutor ever has to prove motive. Sometimes they try to, but they never have to. So what the court is saying is, we're not going to allow you to go inside the mind of a president and try to figure out whether this was, I mean, what president does not act in his or her own best political interest? What president has ever said, you know what, this is going to cost me re-election, but I'm going to do it anyway? I mean, to me, it is obvious that motive should not be part of this. It's a loss for anyone who wanted to see Donald Trump back in the courtroom between now and November.
Yeah, and the Biden administration is saying so. They're saying that this is some sort of travesty. It is not. It's like the president of the United States absolutely miffed and angry about the fact that he can eat ice cream anytime he wants to. And the only reason that he hates the whole decision is because Donald Trump gets to eat ice cream too. You see, this works to the president's advantage. This is about a presidency and the executive branch, not so much about Trump or Biden or what have you. And once again, the crazy stupidness of American politics makes itself once again readily apparent to anybody who's actually watching. Back with more of the Wells Report in a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Got to take a couple of vitamins. Wow. So this is the Wells Report. As we come to this broadcast, a Supreme Court decision that many people were anticipating and really worrying about, yours truly inclusive, has been made. The New York Times article we have indeed covered, And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Fox News coverage of this. The Supreme Court rules that ex-presidents have substantial protection from prosecution. Now, that's a little broad. I'm not talking about the decision. I'm talking about the headline. The subheadline, the issue before the Supreme Court stemmed from special counsel Jack Smith's election interference case against former President Donald Trump. So let's see here. Let me double check something here. Fox is saying that there is Democrat response to all of this. Let me see if I can bring this up for you. Hang on just a moment. As I do this, I'll have to do it the hard way, I guess. But I want to know from you whether or not you agree with the decision or disagree with the decision, and if so, why? A173792172. It is not something that you do not have to agree with me on any of this. What I want to know is that you need to be aware and have the opportunity to speak regarding this situation. You don't have to agree. What I want to know is if you disagree, why? If you agree, why? I want to know just exactly what thoughts you have in your mind today. There's also something else I want to talk about. It is an opinion on my part that I'm going to stop, that I'm not going to share at this particular moment, insofar as we have to do the news first. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm working on an attempt to, there is obviously Democrat response to all of this. And I just got a promo from Fox News that they had Democrats speaking on this. And what I'm trying to do is join that particular broadcast. And when I do, I'll try to dip into it to see just exactly what we have here from a standpoint of Democrat response. Eric Holder is already talking about how this is a gravely wounded democracy at this time. And that got me thinking. I came up with a concept a while back that differentiated between democracy and what I call democracy. Democracy is classic. It goes all the way back to ancient Greece, where people decide for themselves. It's also what's called mob rule, and that's why a pure democracy almost never succeeds. A representative democracy, that being a representative democracy, that being a circumstance where we elect our representatives who speak for us, well, that's a little different story. I've got that Fox News article for you, that Fox News report, and this is going to be biased coverage insofar as what we're seeing is not necessarily strict news reporting, but this is more of an opinion show on Fox. It's called the Faulkner Focus, and let's see where they are with this and what they have to say.
To serve his country, President Biden should leave the race. That was the editorial board. But the Biden team says he's not going anywhere.
Okay, that's not what we're asking for at this particular moment. So Fox News kind of led me astray there. But let's get back to what we were discussing here in just a couple of moments, which is their coverage of the actual ruling today. So this is what Fox News has to say. The Supreme Court ruled today in Trump versus the United States that a former president has substantial immunity from prosecution for official acts committed while in office, but not for unofficial acts. In a 6-3 decision, this along party lines. And once again, I've talked about this a lot. How is it that people that are impaneled to be able to look at things from a constitutional basis, all of them learned constitutional scholars, why is it that they would come up with so many political decisions? If indeed the Supreme Court of the United States wants to play politics, then they should be elected. I would suggest that they should be elected every other presidential term. And indeed, you could set it up so that 3 of the justices were up for election on every presidential term. So that what you had is you had an opportunity, we the people would have an opportunity to elect our justices based on what we believe to be the case. The founding framers of this nation saw that this should be an apolitical office. The Supreme Court does not appear to be apolitical, certainly in this decision and many others that fell along 5-4 lines, 6-3 lines, etc. It always pleases me from a standpoint of just feeling safer about the nation when the Supreme Court acts together. And I don't know why they wouldn't act together in this particular case. This is clearly an infringement on the separation of powers, with the president somehow being eligible for prosecution for official acts. This was a no-brainer. This was the decision that I was hoping for personally, not from a Trump standpoint, not from a Republican standpoint, but for an American standpoint. The presidency of the United States definitely in jeopardy based on whether this decision could have gone the other direction. In a 6-3 decision, the court sent the matter back down to a lower court as the justices did not apply the ruling to whether or not former President Trump is immune from prosecution regarding actions related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. This is significant, and this is fine, because now what has to happen is that the lower courts have to rule based on their opinions, the cases put before them, as to whether or not what the actual limits of presidential immunity are. So by the way, did I tell you the phone number, 817-379-2172? 817-379-2172. I want you to weigh in here. What do you believe the Supreme Court means to the United States? 817-379-2172. The president enjoys no immunity from his unofficial acts, and not everything the president does is official. This according to Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the majority. He goes on to say this: the president is not above the law, but Congress may not criminalize the president's conduct in carrying out the responsibilities of the executive branch. I'm sorry. The president, therefore, no, let me go back here. They keep switching this on me. The president is not above the law, but Congress may not criminalize president's conduct in carrying out the responsibility of his executive branch under the Constitution. And the system of separated powers designed by the framers has always demanded an energetic, independent executive. Further, by the way, we have a chief executive so he can make rapid decisions. And that, of course, if he has to look over his shoulder at every given moment to determine whether or not he's going to be prosecuted for the decision he's about to make in the interests of the United States, that renders the presidency inert. In other words, they can't do anything, which was the part of this that I worried about, Trump notwithstanding on that. The president, therefore, may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers. He is entitled, at a minimum, to a presumptive immunity from prosecution for all of his official acts. That immunity applies equally to all occupants of the Oval Office, regardless of politics, policy, or party. Good statement by the chief executive of the Supreme Court of the United States, the Chief Justice. So let's take a look at that language here. The president, therefore, may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers. Simple, straightforward. Then things get interesting here. He is entitled, or she, at a minimum, to a presumptive immunity from prosecution for all of his official acts. In that, Chief Justice John Roberts points out that this is the way it's always been. The president was entitled and indeed exercised presumptive immunity for his official acts. That's the way it's always been. This is a part of people trying to get Donald Trump out of the political play or out of political play in the United States, because once again, it represents not the destruction of democracy, but the destruction of democracy. The idea that Democrat policy should be the be-all, end-all for all business done by the federal government from a completely Democrat perspective. Now, that's fighting for their side. I get that. But on the other hand, all of this is mitigated by the Constitution of the United States and the simple understanding of what that document means. And that document means that politics can be set aside for the sake of the Constitution of the United States, which is exactly what everyone should want. We don't want to be a nation of politics. We want to be a nation of law. We want to be a nation of freedom and liberty. We do not want to be subjects of the whims of politics. And that's exactly where they were trying to go here. And I'm glad that that was set aside. Continuing here, I'm going to read I'm not going to read the actual, I'm not going to read the actual decision, but I'm going to cruise down through here and see what I can do about getting to the dissent. The question stemmed from special counsel Jack Smith's federal election interference case in which he charged Trump with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Okay, so Jack Smith is a guy who likes to interpret the law to fit whatever political situation he finds himself in. He's been set aside by the Supreme Court before, and this is a rebuke to those ideas and rather strange ideas of just exactly how laws apply. None of these laws, we've never been through this before. Nobody has ever questioned the idea of presumptive immunity. Nobody has. But then again, the people of the United States had never elected Donald Trump before, and in that election presented to the American left an existential threat against the democracy, the leftist agenda for the United States of America moving forward. All right, so that's where all this came from. Now, is it good that presidential immunity should be clearly defined? Yes. But there will be years of decisions having to do with this particular one, Trump v. the United States of America. This is going to define presidential immunity moving forward, and that is actually good. That is a good thing. And so we'll see where that goes. Trump pled not guilty to all charges, argued he should be immune from prosecution for his official acts. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, dissented, saying the government, quote, makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our Constitution and system of government, that no man is above the law. Relying on little more than its own misguided wisdom about the need for bold and unhesitating action by the president, the court gives former President Trump all the immunity he asked for and more because our Constitution does not shield a former president from answering for criminal and treasonous acts. I dissent. Interesting that she didn't say I respectfully dissent. Justice Clarence Thomas penned a separate concurrence to highlight another way in which this prosecution may violate our constitutional structure: the appointment of Jack Smith as special counsel. Quote, in this case, the Attorney General purported to appoint a private citizen as special counsel to prosecute a former president on behalf of the United States. He goes on to say, I am not sure that any office for the special counsel has been established by law as the Constitution requires. By requiring that Congress create federal offices by law, the Constitution imposes an important check against the president. He cannot create offices at his pleasure, which makes sense. He goes on to say if there is no law establishing the office that the special counsel occupies, then he cannot proceed with his prosecution. A private citizen cannot criminally prosecute anyone, let alone a president. There are serious questions whether the Attorney General has violated that structure by creating an office of the special counsel that had not been established by law. In most cases, special counsels are indeed established by congressional action, and that did not happen in this case. This was a political move that was hasty. And the reason it was hasty was because they wanted to get charges and indictments against President Trump quickly enough so that the 2024 election could be determined not by voters in a voting booth with votes going into a ballot box, but at the hands of a federal jury or less, a federal decision that would take years and years and years to appeal. They knew that they were going to lose this case. Certainly, if not on the actual merits of the case in a federal courtroom, but certainly on appeal. The objective of all of this takes us right back to what people have talked about: lawfare. Supreme Court acted today. Do you agree with that action? Do you agree with the action? Do you disagree with the action? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Everybody gets to talk. Everybody gets to say what they think, what they believe. I'm just asking for why. And yeah, I might ask you a couple of questions, but I'm just trying to clarify your point. I'm not trying to argue with you. We're not going to have a shouting match. We're not going to yell at each other. Just tell me what you think. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. The Supreme Court handed Trump a victory. The Democrats are angry. More about that in a moment on the Wells Report.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. News coming hot and heavy today. The presidential immunity decision from the Supreme Court of the United States has been released. It found for President Trump in saying that the President of the United States has immunity from official acts. President Trump has indeed responded. Let's see what Fox News. This is a report that just came out. Let's take a look at it as we continue here on the Wells Report.
There are three simple.
And there's a commercial. And that's always good. That's fantastic. It's so annoying. Here we go. Let me try this one more time as we continue to bring this report from Fox News.
On to the timing of all of this. President Trump has given a statement to Fox News Digital in the wake of this decision. I'll read it for you here. And Jonathan Turley, get your take on it, the other side. Former President Trump said, "I have been harassed by the Democrat Party, Joe Biden, Obama, and their thugs, fascists, and communists for years. And now the courts have spoken. This is a big win for our Constitution and for democracy. Now I am free to campaign like anyone else. We are leading in every poll by a lot, and we will make America great again." So that's his take, although I mentioned earlier, there's another date on the calendar. This is his July 11th sentencing in New York. And I agree, Jonathan, with him when he says, I'm free to campaign like anyone else. Will that be true at the end of the day on July 11th as well?
Well, I would hope that the judge in New York would not impose a jail sentence because I don't think it's warranted under New York law. But this case is not over. Jack Smith is not going to go quietly into that night. I want to know two other aspects of this opinion to complete the circle. The court deals with the so-called fake electors issue. And it says, look, that question in dealing with state officials is not something that we see as falling in within these core areas. And so the district court's going to have to look at those communications to determine to what extent there is this immunity, presumptive or not, that might apply. But then it also talks about President Trump's January 6th speech and all of his tweets. And the language there seems quite favorable towards President Trump and says that presidents are expected to speak forcibly on issues, that are important to citizens. And it really puts a emphasis on the fact that this is something that presidents do. Many of us believe, certainly I do, that President Trump's speech was entirely protected under the First Amendment. But the court is also saying this is a function of what presidents do on matters that divide the public. So on that, you have another section that's going to help out the Trump team dramatically in front of the district court. The one area that might be a sticky point is going to be the electors issue. And even Trump's counsel in front of the court acknowledged that that was going to be a tougher one. But otherwise, this is a very good day for the former president. This opinion is quite favorable on most points.
All right, so that's exactly what the president had to say, President Trump, I mean, as we look at this day and how it unfolds. Democrat lawmakers, on the other hand, lamented the conservative majority Supreme Court decision today, granting presidents limited immunity for actions in their official capacity. Quote, "This is a sad day for America and a sad day for our democracy," said Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, writing on X. "The very basis of our judicial system is that no one is above the law." This is disingenuous. This is disingenuous. The President of the United States is not above the law. It is not above the office itself is not above the law. That's what we mean by high crimes and misdemeanors with regard to impeachment and removal from office. If indeed someone, a president, he or she, commits a high crime or misdemeanor, and the political process plays out whereby the House of Representatives becomes the prosecutor, the grand jury, if you will, and then the Supreme Court becomes the actual trial place, the actual trial court, then there is a remedy for a malfunctioning president who commits high crimes and misdemeanors. In other words, to say, for example, that the very basis of our judicial system is no one is above the law. No one is above the law, because the law does stipulate that indeed there is an impeachment to remove a president from office. And also, by the way, there's another thing. Chuck Schumer does not want the president to be prosecuted while in office, and indeed for official acts or non-official acts. If this decision had gone the other way, the president would have been prosecutable for official acts while president. And when President Obama decided to kill Anwar al-Awlaki and his son by presidential fiat, that looks a lot like murder to me. And these people really do need to be more honest. Simple case of the matter is that now, President Obama is free and clear of the Anwar al-Awlaki idea that he indeed killed an American, and his son, by the way, killed an American citizen offshore just because he wanted to. That's murder. And there are other famous cases of that. Obama and the Benghazi mess. President Biden and the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. All of those guys could be prosecuted if this decision had gone a different way. That's the way I see it. How about you? Big story today. The Supreme Court has acted. The President of the United States has limited immunity for official acts, actually has immunity from official acts. And we will discuss more of this as we continue with hour number 2 of the Monday edition of the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. We report the news honestly and fairly here. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report, so we got something to debate here. The Supreme Court of the United States has acted regarding presidential immunity. And they say that there is immunity from prosecution when it comes to official acts while they're in office, but it does not extend to unofficial acts. Those unofficial acts will be determined by lower court rulings and doubtless will go through the appellate process and back to the Supreme Court. And this is going to be something that takes time. This is not something that's going to happen very quickly, certainly not in time for the 2024 election. So is this a win for President Trump? Well, it's not just a win for President Trump. It's a win for all presidents, including President Biden, including President Obama, arguably including George W. Bush, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this preserves the presidency as we know it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people making what I consider to be loose statements, specifically Nancy Pelosi. Here's what she wrote on X. Today, the Supreme Court has gone rogue with its decision. This was a narrative that's been put forward by the American left for a while here. It has gone rogue with its decision, violating the foundational American principle that no one is above the law. The former president's claim of total presidential immunity is an insult to the vision of our founders, who declared independence from a king. This is not total presidential immunity. In this statement, Nancy Pelosi is being intellectually dishonest. It is clear, completely clear in the decision that a president has immunity from official acts, but not unofficial ones. Nancy Pelosi is being dishonest. Chuck Schumer on X also wrote, "This is a sad day for America, a sad day for our democracy. The very basis of our judicial system is no one is above the law." Are you seeing the resonance here? This is going to be the talking point moving forward. Why is it moving forward, and why did it happen minutes after the decision? Because they knew they were going to lose this case. And once again, they're trying to preserve whatever they can to besmirch this ruling because it disrupts, if not destroys, most of, if not all of, the cases that have been brought against Donald Trump in something that some people have called lawfare. Let's see. Treason or indictment of an insurrection should not be considered a core constitutional power afforded to a president. In this, Senator Schumer is referring to January 6th. January 6th was a circumstance where treason was never brought up, and they had a chance. The impeachment was about the supposed insurrection, and it was found to not be true by the Senate of the United States, and it wasn't a complete party line vote. Treason or indictment, again, scurrilous language being used by Chuck Schumer that is intellectually dishonest, in my view. So let's see what else is being said. Senator Peter Welch, the Democrat from Vermont, claimed in a statement the court has lost all credibility, made painfully clear by the fact that Justice Thomas and Justice Alito refused to recuse themselves from this case, despite their glaring lack of impartiality. The legislative branch and members of the legislative branch do not get to assert what is and what isn't on the Supreme Court of the United States or the justices, and they know it. Again, this all coalesces around intellectual dishonesty and, in some cases, scurrilous communication from the left of the United States of America. They can't start taking shots at the Supreme Court of the United States. And when you start talking about Justice Alito refusing to recuse himself, that's all about flying an American flag and flying the other flag, the heaven flag. And that has nothing to do with anything that should cause Justice Alito to recuse himself. That is just grasping at straws by the American left trying to besmirch this decision. The Vermont lawmaker has been an advocate of ethical reform for the nation's highest court. Again, the legislative branch has no business imposing an ethical standard on the judicial branch of our nation. House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York said in a statement that the ruling sets a dangerous precedent. House Democrats will engage in aggressive oversight and legislative activity with respect to the Supreme Court to ensure that the extreme far-right justices on the majority are brought into compliance with the Constitution. They can't do that. There is a separation of powers, clearly enumerated in the Constitution of the United States. This, again, is more dishonest and unrealistic verbiage from the American left. The Congressional Progressive Caucus chairwoman, Pramila Jayapal of Washington, she's also a Democrat, called the ruling shocking. The extreme right-wing Supreme Court has just drastically weakened our accountability if a president attempts to use their office for criminal purposes. Better watch. You really ought to be careful what you wish for here. You really do. It's a disastrous ruling that could give grave effects on our democracy. And once again, when they say democracy, read democracy, the Democrat agenda for the nation. These politicians are asserting that democracy, not democracy, should rule the day in this nation. And it argues immediately against all of their statements regarding how this is a nation of laws and that no one is above the law. Well, what kind of law are they discussing? They're discussing political law. They're discussing political law. And they had a chance to convict President Trump on political law, and they failed both times. Both times. And to get back to Schumer's statement, well, it's treason. What he did was treason and insurrection. Well, how come there weren't any specifications for treason in the impeachment? Because that is a complete deal breaker. There was no treason involved there. As a matter of fact, that entire impeachment case was indeed based on an incorrect assertion of the speech, dirty edits from the mainstream media, and, like I said, intellectual dishonesty on the part of those people that were trying to turn it into something that it was not. And the Supreme Court apparently agreed. Another strong ethics reform advocate, Senator Richard Blumenthal, wrote on X, "My stomach turns with fear and anger that our democracy can be so endangered by an out-of-control court." Not democracy, democracy. And yes, democracy is endangered by the Supreme Court. which is why they're going after it. They practiced lawfare against President Trump. Now they're trying to practice lawfare against the Supreme Court of the United States. They're going to fail. And they know it. They know it. This is all election year dishonesty. It's awful. And we also expressed in this that Nancy Pelosi claims the Supreme Court has gone rogue in its decision making. Again, not true. Democrats in Congress were quick to point out that 3 of the justices were appointed by former President Trump. According to Schumer, the decision on immunity handed down by the court's conservative, quote, suggests political influence. Trump's all in our courts today. Schumer, of course, probably slapping himself on the back for being able to use the word Trumps in that statement. Yeah, Trump's us. See, we've been trumped. Yeah. Let's see. So Schumer continues to babble. He appointed 3 extreme judges, is now exploiting the powers of the president in ways that were once unthinkable. Oh, this isn't Schumer, by the way. Sorry. He appointed 3 extreme judges, is now exploiting the powers of the president in ways that were once unthinkable. The court can no longer to be counted on to defend the Constitution. This from Robert Garcia, the representative, the Democrat from California. Vulnerable Democrat Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin strangely avoided opining on the ruling itself, but bashed the Supreme Court in general on X. She said, reminder, Republicans and all this activist Supreme Court are responsible for stripping away women's reproductive rights, and they aren't done attacking our freedoms. My Women's Health Protection Act would restore these rights everywhere across the country. Let's pass it. Well, that's what you're there for. I don't necessarily agree with your bill. I haven't read it yet, so I can't really opine on that one way or another. But the Constitution of the United States does say the legislative branch can do whatever it wants to, but it's interesting. She's not going to take on the Supreme Court, not for the immunity ruling. She's taking on the Supreme Court, why I really don't understand, because the Supreme Court just ruled that mifepristone is perfectly legal. And that is a ruling that President Trump immediately agreed with. What's she talking about? What she's doing is just throwing anti-Trump, anti-court statements up against the wall to see just exactly what is going to happen next. Let me get to CNN here and see what we can do about finding. Here are the live updates from CNN. And remember, these are most recent to least recent. Okay. So Justice Sonia Sotomayor was very serious about her dissent. Let the president violate the law. Let him exploit the trappings of his office for personal gain. Let him use his official power for evil ends. Because if he knew that he may one day face liability for breaking the law, he might not be as bold and fearless as we would like him to be. That's the majority's message today. Even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably in every use of official power. The president is now a king above the law. Orders the Navy SEAL Team 6. Now, this is what I wanted you to hear. This is Sonia Sotomayor writing in a seriously fiery dissent. Quote, the president would order Navy's SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. Immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power. Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon. Immune, 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 immune. Let the president violate the law. Let him exploit the trappings of his office for personal gain. Let him use his official power for evil ends. Because if he knew that he might one day face liability for breaking the law, he might not be bold and fearless as we would like him to be. That's the majority message. The justice did not end the dissent with the traditional respectfully. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. Well, okay, let's get back to all of this. I wanted to talk about this. Order for SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. Immune. President Obama ordered a drone strike on Anwar al-Awlaki. He said he was a terrorist, and he obliterated him with a Hellfire missile. And everybody said, well, the guy he never really was found guilty of any terrorist acts, but he certainly allied himself with terrorists and so on and so forth. And people went, well, okay. But then President Obama killed his son. So the nightmare scenario of the president of the United States ordering someone or ordering the American Special Forces into an assassination, that's already happened. Did the country fold under the weight of that decision? No. Do I think the Anwar al-Awlaki murder or the attack was a murder? No. Do I think the attack on his son was a murder? Yes. Should President Obama thus be prosecuted for murder in these United States? He's not the president anymore. And if not, why not? That's assuming that all of this holds any kind of weight from a standpoint of actual intellectual effort. Not necessarily the case. This is the Wells Report. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Looking at the Supreme Court decision from today. It was announced on the last day of the term, which was today. And there is immunity for the President of the United States for his execution of official acts. And there's all kinds of stuff flying around. This from 3 minutes ago from CNN. While the Supreme Court said the presidents are immune from prosecution for official acts, the justices didn't define exactly what actions are official and which are unofficial. No, that's something that the lower courts have to decide first. This is going to be a decision that has ramifications moving into the future for quite some time. The High Court did address a few of former President Donald Trump's actions. Remember, this is CNN. This is biased coverage. Conversations between Trump and the Department of Justice. Official act, Trump is immune from prosecution. Trump allegedly pressuring then Vice President Michael Pence to not count certified electoral votes on January 6th. Trump is presumed immune, but the case is remanded to a lower court for further review. This is going to be the bracketing of presidential immunity. By the way, the lower courts will say, based on this decision, that that was an official act. Trump allegedly pressured state officials to change their state's electoral votes from Biden to Trump, not answered, remanded for lower courts to review. Again, the bracketing of presidential immunity. Trump allegedly incited violence on January 6th, not answered, remanded to lower courts for review. And that includes Tanya Chutkan and a case or two involving Jack Smith. Chief Justice John Roberts said the trial court will have to assess what of Trump's alleged conduct is immunized under the new test handed down by the High Court. And the opinion said that additional briefings will be needed for the trial court to do so. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, her dissent, claims the majority ruling would allow presidents to be immune from prosecution should they order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, organize a military coup to hold on to power, or accept a bribe in exchange for a pardon. Yeah, once again, Sonia Sotomayor is apparently immune from reading the news because there's a president under all kinds of scrutiny regarding what looks an awful lot like bribery. And once again, she may be arguing the very point that puts President Biden into prison. You know, this is where the idiot legalist savant assertion that I've made in the past comes into play. These are people that wouldn't know what to do unless it was written down in a book. And you do have to take a look at that and say, okay, whatever. But at the end of all of it, be careful what you wish for. The inability for the American left to be able to look into the future and avoid unintended consequences is in play here. Democrat National Committee Chair Jamie Harrison said the Supreme Court decision that Donald Trump may claim immunity from criminal prosecution for some actions he took as president, quote, underscores the stakes of this election. Good statement. She goes on to say, today's ruling only underscores the stakes of the election. This is not just about partisan politics. This is about freedom. Here are the facts. And this is where she starts straying into politics. On January 6th, Donald Trump inspired a mob of violent insurrectionists who attempted to overturn the results of a free and fair election. He has repeatedly put himself above our democracy, our Constitution, and the American people. Once again, the President Trump, did not put himself over democracy. His actions did indeed put himself over democracy, which is a political philosophy where all things Democrat should be the law of the land, turning this nation into a nation of politics and not law. These people are arguing against themselves. They're saying that democracy is at stake while they firmly place democracy at stake. And they argue for it. It's unbelievable. So let's see. Kinzinger says, Adam Kinzinger. He's talking again. This is not good. This is the Wells Report. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. By all means, let's talk about this one. Do you agree with the Supreme Court or not? Tell me why. Next.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Supreme Court ruling today, presidential immunity. Either you are relieved, as I am, not because of President Trump, but because of the presidency. This was an attack on the presidency and the executive branch of the United States of America. And I am unsure as to just exactly what the Democrat Party is trying to accomplish with all of these statements of theirs. So check this out. We're watching the live updates. We're watching the live updates from CNN on this decision. And of course, CNN, being biased left, is covering all of the leftist statements being made, many scurrilously, and some of them just plain absurd. Let's take a look at the latest of these. New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said 7 minutes ago she plans to file articles of impeachment, giving the Supreme Court ruling today that would give Donald Trump limited immunity against criminal prosecution based on his time in office. Quote, this is AOC. Quote, today's ruling represents an assault on American democracy. It's up to Congress to defend our nation from this authoritarian capture. I intend filing articles of impeachment upon our return. She's writing it on X. Who's she going to try to impeach? Right? Impeachment has become the new way for the American left to protect its agenda. She's not going to be successful in impeaching any Supreme Court justice at all. It's not going anywhere. And this is essentially a fool's errand. But then again, in my opinion, if you consider the source, look, it's democracy. Okay, these people are reeling in the knowledge that indeed the nation, the Constitution of the United States, does indeed protect the political enemies of the American left from the American left. This is a leftist temper tantrum, Let's see this from 9 minutes ago. Donald Trump's legal team, and again, this is CNN. Donald Trump's legal team will likely use the SCOTUS opinion, the Supreme Court of the United States opinion, as they challenge the New York hush money criminal verdict itself on appeal. This, according to a source familiar with their thinking, speaking to CNN. Trump's team thinks the SCOTUS opinion could be used to challenge portions of Hope Hicks' testimony, as well as some of the tweets entered in as evidence, according to the source familiar. CNN earlier reported the Trump team sees the opinion as a major victory because, in addition to using it to try to get charges tossed, they can also use this opinion to get evidence related to official acts tossed in all cases, not just federal, which can hurt prosecutors' ability to prove what charges are left. All right. Let's see. I think we talked. No, this is new too. This is CNN's Owen Dahlkamp writing on CNN and the live updates. While the Supreme Court said the presidents are immune from prosecution for official acts, the justices didn't define exactly what actions are official and which are unofficial. We've talked about that. The High Court did address a few of former President Donald Trump's actions. I think I covered this once. Conversation between Trump and the Department of Justice, official act. Trump allegedly pressuring then Vice President Michael Pence not to count certified electoral votes on January 6th. He is presumed immune. The case is remanded to lower courts for further review. He will be immune from that because that was an official act. Trump allegedly pressured state officials to change their state's electoral votes from Biden to Trump, not answered, remanded to lower courts. Trump allegedly inciting violence in the January 6th insurrection, not answered, remanded to lower courts. This is a masterful decision on the part of the Supreme Court of the United States. Well done. Because what it does is it essentially stops lawfare, at the same time leaving the question open as to the definition of presidential immunity. They've made it clear the president is immune from official acts. Good. Unofficial ones? No, he is not immune. Again, good. This is a great decision. Not for Donald Trump. It's not a bad decision for for the people of the United States that disagree with Donald Trump. This is a good decision for the United States of America, specifically the presidency and the executive branch. This is a good decision. This reaffirms America, which is good. The left, on the other hand, well, they're looking right down the barrel of a very, very serious displacement of their agenda to turn America into a Democrat socialist political playground. The idea that you would prosecute your political opponent for some sort of, to use the very tired Chuck Schumer pun, trumped up charges, is not something that's going to withstand judicial branch scrutiny. Further, the American left now attacks the judicial branch. Well, it's the Supreme Court. That's what's wrong. The Supreme Court is rogue, says Nancy Pelosi. No, it's not. At some level, what we have is a reaffirmation of just exactly what we're trying to do here in the United States. That, of course, is a nation of laws. Not men, not women, not politics. A nation of laws. Separation of powers. I was... Antonin Scalia, before he died, was talking about the most important part of the Constitution. He said, okay, what's the most important part of the Constitution? And people say, the Bill of Rights. And he goes, no, no. The Bill of Rights is not the most important part of the Constitution. The Bill of Rights essentially is good, but it's not the most important part. What is the most important part of the Constitution of the United States? Justice Scalia said, separation of powers. That's the real genius of this document. And that is the genius that we are seeing in play today. And the rest of this is a Democrat temper tantrum. And they're not actually Democrats. Democrats are looking at this ruling going, yeah, okay. Yeah, it makes sense. But leftists, on the other hand, are watching their anti-American socialist agenda going out the window step by step. And oh, by the way, this is not something that is unique to the United States of America. Check this out. In France, the far right has won for the first time in maybe forever. It's the first round of the French election. An intense runoff and horse trading will now begin. So let me give you that news. Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally Party won the first round of the French parliamentary elections over the weekend, according to exit polls. The final result will depend on days of horse trading before the next week's runoff. The National Rally Party was seen winning 34% of the vote. Exit polls from Ipsos, IFOP, Opinionway, and Elabe, E-L-A-B-E, you tell me. That was ahead of leftist and centrist rivals, according to President Emmanuel Macron, his Together alliance, whose bloc was seen winning 20.5 to 23%, depending on what you look at. The New Popular Front, hastily assembled a left-wing coalition, was projected to win around 29% of the vote, according to the exit polls. Those polls were in line with opinion polls ahead of the election, but provided little clarity on whether the anti-immigrant, Eurosceptic National Rally Party will be able to form a government to cohabit with the pro-EU Macron after the Sunday runoff. Okay. So, in other words, the left is finding its course having been run. In other words, you can only defy gravity for just so long. And so maybe some of that gravity is now making itself apparent. Gary says, brilliant, it's a defeat for Democrats. They're poor losers. Well, it's a defeat for democracy, not necessarily democracy. Yvonne says, yeah, I agree with the Supreme Court. Let's see what else. I can't see any other chats in chat room. That's Brad. I think you got that fixed. Gary says that's what Democracies don't understand. It protects Obama, Biden, and Clinton's too. True. President Obama arguably is guilty of murdering Anwar al-Awlaki's son, and perhaps Anwar al-Awlaki. He acted unilaterally to kill an American citizen abroad without due process. That's a violation of constitutional rights. And killing his son, well, that was murder. That's all that was. So go ahead and have it your way. And then what happens? Well, then what happens? You're going to see a lot of presidents in jail. That's what happens. Yeah. Let's see. Why would anybody put stock in Pelosi or Schumer? Well, because they have to. Let's see. I sure do miss having conversations with you, John, and the Wells Report. That from the Texan, who's on pilled.com. The Texan is a podcast done by my friend, and you should watch it. Let's see. He goes on to say democracy is in jeopardy. Yeah, it's in jeopardy. Yeah, the Democrat Party, as hornswoggled into socialist democracy by progressives, they are looking at the end of the rainbow when it comes to, and not a good rainbow, a bad one. They're looking at the end of the trail when it comes to their leftist anti-American agenda. And that's how America defends itself. America is a self-correcting mechanism. And this is the correction. Let's see who else. We are reading the chat room. So join us. Let's see. How can they call them reproductive rights when the goal is to terminate the reproduction? Well, that's the right to terminate a reproduction if you want to. I don't like it. But then again, America is pro-choice. We do get to make choices in this country. So, go with that as you will. Gary says, Sotomayor is a communist. My cousin went to grammar school with her in the Bronx. My cousin is a leftist commie too. Let's see, if it's not written on the heel of a boot, can't help you. Well, okay. That was from Brad. AOC, watch for Tina Forte. She's set to unseat AOC. Did you see AOC unhinged with the fire alarm puller? Yeah, that was embarrassing. Thanks for bringing up to the world thanks for bringing up the world is sick and tired of liberals. Look at what's going on in England too, and Germany. Yeah, Gary. Yeah, that's true. Gary Absher. Regular people are waking up globally, and borders are cool. Yeah, they are cool and they are necessary. And the political manipulation of a population for political gain of a particular political agenda is monstrous. It is absolutely monstrous. Let me see if we got any more updates. Let's see. This was 2 hours and 52 minutes ago. Nope. Okay, so nothing new. Let's see what else is going on. We have just a little bit of time left in the broadcast. Let me cover a couple of different things here while we're at it, since we're in the loosey-goosey portion of the broadcast. This happened. I want to bring you up to date on this. U.S. military bases in Europe have been placed on higher security alert due to a combination of factors, that's a quote, that could affect the safety of troops and their families. U.S. European Command oversees 83,000 American troops in the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps, and installations across the continent. The command is redoubling its effort to stress vigilant during the summer months. This according to a statement released today. Let's see, what else? That was something I wanted to talk to you about. When we're starting to talk about leftism running its course, there is indeed a possibility that is much more close to home. Listen to this. We're going back to the horrifying Jocelyn Nungaray murder. The Texas district attorney charged with prosecuting 2 illegal immigrants for the murder of a 12-year-old Houston girl is now blaming a broken system that allowed the pair to allegedly commit the killing. Johan Jose Martinez Rangel, he's 21, Franklin Jose Peña Ramos are charged with capital murder in the death of Jocelyn Nungaray. both of whom crossed illegally into the U.S. earlier this year. They should have never been released when they crossed over into El Paso, but we have a broken system, according to Harris District Attorney Kim Ogg, speaking to KPRC Television. It's hard when you know something could have been prevented, like a child's death. I'm sorry, Ms. DA, but is Houston a sanctuary city? I know it's illegal in Texas, but that prosecutorial discretion, is it biting you on the fanny? The answer is yes. By the way, people are calling Houston and Harris County a criminal sanctuary. That's what they're saying. And the DA is working as best she can to try to distance herself from the very sanctuary that she's long espoused. What goes around comes around. This is the Wells Report. Back with more coming up in just a moment.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. While we're discussing the Supreme Court ruling that establishes presidential immunity for official acts, someone is going to prison today. He is Steve Bannon, and Mr. Bannon is checking into a minimum security prison in Connecticut. This was an ABC News report on that. Let's take a look as we move forward on the Wells Report.
Former senior advisor is reporting to federal prison today. Steve Bannon is set to serve a 4-month sentence for contempt of Congress after defying the House January 6 committee's subpoena. Earlier, he told reporters he's proud to go to prison.
I am proud to go to prison. If this is what it takes to stand up to tyranny, if this is what it takes to stand up to the Garland, corrupt, criminal DOJ, if this is what it takes to stand up to Nancy Pelosi, if this is what it takes to stand up to Joe Biden.
And let's bring in senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky outside that prison in Danbury, Connecticut for more. Aaron, what's the latest there in Danbury?
Steve Bannon drove into FCI Danbury just before noon Eastern time to begin serving his 4-month sentence for contempt of Congress. Diane, he held a lengthy bit of court on the lawn just across the street, a smattering of supporters and detractors behind him making all sorts of noise as he said that he had no regrets. In fact, he said he would have been upset with himself if he hadn't defied the subpoena from the January 6th commission that ended up getting him in trouble in the first place. And he called himself a political prisoner despite his conviction in federal court and the failure of multiple appeals, including one just last Friday when the U.S. Supreme Court declined to intervene.
Now, Aaron, Bannon's still an influential voice in conservative media. Trump himself has echoed Bannon's rhetoric about retribution, for example. How significant is this sentence, and could it bolster his power in a way?
Well, and that's how he sees it. He says that his voice is not going to be silenced just because he himself is going into federal prison. And so in that way, he seems to characterize himself a martyr. But he says, Diane, he is not a martyr because martyrs die. And the way he sees it, him and his movement are far from dead.
And yesterday on This Week, Bannon told our chief Washington correspondent, John Karl, that some of Trump's former administration officials should be worried if Trump wins the election. What do you think he meant by that? And what are you watching for, not only as he serves this sentence, but also as he's set to be released just before Election Day?
And we asked we asked Bannon what former President Trump had said to him or what his communication with him had been like over the last couple of days, and he declined to really characterize. But he said that Trump told him to keep fighting, and he said he told Trump to keep fighting. And they've both talked about this notion of retribution, and it's not clear what exactly they mean. Bannon has spoken in terms that could be taken as inciting violence, even though he says that's not what he intends to portray. But he does believe that people like Merrick Garland and Nancy Pelosi and others associated with Democrats and the Biden Justice Department ought to be accountable. Now, for what, he doesn't make clear, but the way he sees it, his federal case is political, and any federal case tied to former President Trump is the same.
All right, so I can clarify that for ABC News if you'd like, and I'm going to do it this way. Retribution, a revenge tour, if you will, from President Trump. There are problems in the American government. Unrestrained, legal, federal law enforcement bureaucrats fashioning the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and law enforcement powers to suit a political agenda. It's oppression under color of office. That needs to get fixed. That needs to get fixed. The idea that, say, for example, I don't know, that Steve Bannon is going to go to jail belies the intellectual and political hypocrisy that Eric Holder famously refused to go take a look at, go testify before a congressional committee using the exact same excuse that was set aside by the courts in Steve Bannon's case. This is all ridiculous. Does Steve Bannon indeed have a point in that he may be a political prisoner? Yeah. Yeah, he does. Yes, he does. And the idea that Steve Bannon is going to prison is a stain on the political process, even the judicial process that made it possible. Not because the case was wrong. There's no doubt about the fact that Bannon absolutely is in contempt of Congress for not showing up to the committee. It is, however, selective prosecution. It is selective prosecution under political color, under color of office. And that is just plain third world garbage. That's all there is. So a very, very big day in the United States as the Supreme Court rules that, presidents do indeed have immunity. not just official immunity, but also presumptive immunity while they are presidents of the United States. Okay, so where are the brackets of presidential immunity? Well, that will be decided in the courts, where it should be decided. And so it goes. Here we are on this first day of July, year of our Lord 2024. And so this has been the Wells Report. By the way, if you find value in this broadcast, subscribe to it. If indeed you'd like to pass it along to your friends and ask them to subscribe, I would appreciate that immensely. Like the notification button so you know when we're on the air, and give us thumbs ups. Those are important. If you'd like to support the show financially, go to patreon.com/The Wells Report. Patreon.com/The Wells Report. And give us a couple of bucks. Thanks very much for joining us. See you tomorrow. Okie as well as Dokie. Holy jinky, winky, dinky. And there we go. Let me get back to the chat room here. I hope the Democracies don't want to start World War III in their breakdown tantrum. I'm afraid the debate exposed us. We don't have any real leadership going on. Russia, China, and Iran see now that it's their time to act. Let's see. Houston is a criminal sanctuary. World War II, please God, no. World War III, he means, yes. Bannon, instant pardon January, as with most of the J6ers, starting with the ones that never went to the Capitol. Okay, I'm of a couple of minds on that. First of all, those people that assaulted police officers should go to jail. They should. They should be in jail. But for 20 years? No. No. And the Supreme Court ruling on the obstruction cases put against them ends that. Those cases will be set aside. Regardless of, as far as the rest of it goes, that's going to be a case-by-case basis if President Donald Trump wins. If not, and there's a Democrat in the White House, that prolongs the anti-American stain on the left and the Democrat Party. How long will they want to suffer the political flies flying around that particular stinking pile of garbage? I don't have any idea, but it is definitely a stinking pile of garbage. There is no doubt about that. Let's see what else is going on here. It's not retribution. It's bringing justice to those involved in lawfare and true election interference, says Gary Absher. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. It's not retribution. It's a reckoning. It's not revenge. Revenge is easy. President Trump said it himself. He said, living well is the best revenge. Doing good work for the American people, the best revenge. Setting aside this demonstratively damaging leftist agenda for the United States, that's the best revenge. And that's why the left, the swamp, that's why all these people are working so hard to maintain the status quo, because they have made remarkable strides in a leftist agenda. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is talking today about how the Democrats will lower housing costs. How? By nationalizing American housing? Is that how they're going to do it? They're going to do something about these corporations gouging the American people. How? By nationalizing the corporations and just saying by congressional fiat how much money you get to make? That's an attack on capitalism. That's an attack on free enterprise. That's an attack on the United States of America. All these people spewing that they're wanting to save democracy. The Soviet Union was a democracy, and they're trying to rebuild an American Soviet Union. That is the stain I'm talking about, right down to political purges of your political opposition. We've seen this before. In our lifetimes, we've seen this before. We're not going to have it here. But pay attention. Pay attention to what these people are saying. This is something that they are very seriously in need of trying to move forward, because they want to make the United States a socialist politician's playground. And this was something that put a serious hitch in their giddy-up. That's been the Wells Report today. Thank you for joining us again. I really appreciate your eyes and your ears. Take good care of yourself. Be safe. Make good decisions. Pay attention.